Welcome in Inside the Game, episode 203. There we go. Sorry, I saw it on the bottom. All right, I got it. All right, 203. Welcome back. Season 2 of Inside the Game. Nate Wangler back alongside Ryan Glinski. Had a great conversation yesterday. Big thanks to anyone who joined us for that one. A lot more to come on today's show. A lot we got to get to. Some messy news in both the soccer world and the all sports world. I know that Jonathan Turner's not on the show anymore, but I'm going to kick things off the way he did for pretty much the first 200 that I was on. Ryan Glinski, how are you?
I'm doing good. Just realized something at the bottom of the screen there is wrong. We're not on question of the day as of right now, but no, it is I'm doing good. I'm doing fine. I did actually forget my lunch here this morning, so I'm a little bummed that I will most likely have to leave and go get, I don't know, what's nearby? Chipotle,
man, you got Trop Smooth. You got what do you got right down the road? You got Culver's a couple doors over.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're on like a health kick lately. I don't know. It's the new year, so I don't know if you like your resolution or something, like you're not going to eat fast food. But if you're still into fast food, you got Culver's, dude. All right, you got all that right around you. And Trop Smooth. Trop Smoothie's good. Trop Smoothie is really good. Those what do they have? They're like flatbreads.
I've had a couple. I had a chicken bacon ranch flatbread.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Every time I'm there.
I've had one of those. But yeah, no, I'm not on a crazy, health thing, but I have eaten a little bit better because, I mean, let's be honest. I'm sure you did the same thing. I'm sure, the people at home did the same thing because I did it as well. I ate a ton of food that I normally don't do around the holidays and ate a ton of it. Like, I'm talking, I ate a ton of snickerdoodles. I ate a ton of pierogies, kielbasa, chicken, just about everything. Cornbread even, spaghetti salad. I ate so much. And I was dialing it back a little bit, but today I might have to go fast food route.
All right. That's the stuff, my man. I agree. Over on this side, pretty good. By the way, I just wanted to tell our listeners who are listening here today, I was doing a little speaking last night, little elevated speaking, loud speaking. So got a little rasp to me this morning, but I think we'll be all right. We'll be able to get through it. But welcome in again Inside the Game. Follow us on social media at National Soccer Network. We'll be continuing to push traffic to this show every single day. Ryan, let's get started. Let's get it kicked off on the soccer side. What's our first topic for the day?
Let's rock with some not really. I guess it's kind of breaking news. I guess. Breaking news as of a couple or within the last day or so. JT in our TikTok chat is getting in there and says, which again, if you want to get your comment read, head over to, I think, any of our YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, anything. John says, Tropical Smoothie is not great. I
Get out of town. Trop Smoothie's the best. He's probably had it a million times. That's why. I remember my freshman year at Central Michigan, I had a Subway. Did you stay in the towers when you were there?
Yeah, I stayed in Kessler my second year. I
know
about.
You remember the Subway at the bottom?
I know exactly.
I think I went to that thing
it.
at least 5 times a week, man. Like it was all the time I would be at Subway. And it took me a while. It took me years after leaving CMU to finally be like, yeah, I'll go get some Subway. I couldn't stand it for a while because that's all I had. And I get the same sandwich every time too. I don't mix it up. Yeah, every time it's the Italian BMT.
Ooh.
Lettuce, pickle, and maybe some Southwest Ranch. Is that what it is? Southwest mayo?
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. This the spicy stuff. I just say Southwest. They just throw it out there. Oh, provolone, by the way, or pepper jack. That's good too. But
I got. Let's see. I don't think I've had Subway since my sophomore year at CMU either. Like, because I remember I would always get a spicy Italian sandwich. I always thought that was the best. John's sandwiches, Italian herb and cheddar bread. Oh, and vinegar
yeah. Well,
and oil.
I mean that. Yes.
I don't like vinegar.
No. Italian herb and cheese though. I could definitely see that. I'm all for that. But
like I changed up the bread every now and again, but no, it was normally just a spicy Italian. and especially eating that sandwich after a day after a night out or a day of drinking of any of that, it was so good. But
Of
I don't.
debauchery.
I'm I might have to get a Subway because I have not had Subway in probably since 2022. Was probably the last time I've had Subway.
Well, I mean, between you and me, so you forgot your lunch. I don't have any snacks left in my house. I have one frozen chicken breast. This is my issue. I go out and I go shopping, and then I wait as long as humanly possible before I go shopping again because I know it's gonna hurt. So, anyways, moving on to.
John
Go
also
ahead. Go ahead.
added BMT, extra pickles, onions, and provolone. Jersey Mike's is better, by the way. I could agree with that. I could agree that Jersey Mike's is
good.
pretty good.
Yeah,
I would say
doesn't Jersey Mike's they like toast their subs too?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
like
I mean,
you can get it
any
either
place
way.
can toast a sandwich.
Well, mine is Jimmy John's,
I
which
would.
I'm a Jimmy
okay,
John's
that's fair.
fan.
Yeah, that's
you
fair.
know,
I would
mean,
say mine is probably Jersey Mike's. I like Firehouse a lot, but they're a little expensive.
Firehouse was the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
And then-
That stuff's good.
And then I would go Jimmy John's and then Subway.
Jimmy John's and then Subway.
But again,
all right, Subway's
I have
dead
not
last.
had Subway since my sophomore year of so 2023 technically the first semester, the second semester of 2023. So that would have been
The thing
the
is about
last.
Subway that makes it good though is the cookies. It's the everything
Ooh.
else on top of it. You throw in a cookies, a baked lays, and whatever you want to drink. I don't know on top of that, but the cookies are what makes it. I'm just
John
saying.
is saying at Jersey Mike's he gets a hook and ladder sub. I don't think I've ever had that. I will say the only knock on Jersey Mike's is again there's a Jersey Mike's not far from the studio here, and I got a sandwich here one time when I was in between something, and there was this thing that my dad goes, you got to get this when you get there. They added hot honey. It's hot honey on the sandwich. I was like, all right, I'll try it or whatever. Oh my God, it is a game changer. But then I don't want to burst the bubble here, and then I went a month later again, and I asked for it, and they're like, oh yeah, we got rid of it. I was like, they're like, we were just testing it. I was like, is it coming back? Because that thing was good. Like, it better be coming back. And yeah, but no, that is
never came back.
Jersey Mike's, if you're watching this at all, not only sponsor us, but get the hot honey back, or just give us each a sandwich for every single show. That's fine too. We could do that. John is saying Jimmy John's the meat slides off the bun. Jimmy John's the meat slides off the bun. Firehouse subs is hook and ladder. Oh, Firehouse is hook and ladder. Oh, okay, gotcha.
I don't get enough meat on my sandwich when I go to Jimmy John's then apparently because I will admit sometimes it does feel like just lettuce, mayo, and bread.
Yeah.
Which I mean is not the worst thing in the world. It just I don't know, maybe I don't know, I grew up eating bread for a snack sometimes. Maybe I just like bread and that's what Jimmy John's offers. What I will say is that JJ's does offer day-old breads for 50 cents. That's the stuff.
They do.
I'm just saying.
They do.
That's a good if you want to ramp up to like you got game day or Lions game, something where you're going to be consuming some sort of alcohol. The smart plan is to eat a day-old Jimmy John's 50-cent bread, the entire thing. All right, trust me on this. I'm giving you the blueprint right now. Eat the whole thing, hydrate, and you're good.
Is it hangover free?
But I don't know about no. Afterwards, post care, that's you got to figure that part out.
Oh, okay.
But
I didn't know. If
you're not gonna upchuck the boogie if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was like you don't get a hangover by eating that.
No.
Okay.
No, I have no cures for that. No, that's just you got to go back to the classics if you want to solve that problem.
Yeah,
so.
My cure is liquid IV and 3 ibuprofen, and then that's when I wake up in the middle of the night. I should do it before I go to bed, and it would probably solve everything. But I wake up in the middle of the night, chug liquid IV, 3 ibuprofen, go back to bed, wake up, and I feel like $1 million.
How old are you?
22.
That sounds like a 40. You sound like a 35-year-old man with that process. That's funny.
No, it cures
That's
it.
Smart.
It cures it like that. Like you go back to bed, wake up, and you're fine. John's also talking about Tubby's. Tubby's original with extra famous dressing, also fire. I haven't had Tubby's since.
Never had Tubby's.
I haven't had Tubby's since when I was still doing pool renovations my first year. Yeah, so I haven't had that in a long time. And
Is that another East Side thing?
Good. Huh?
Is that another East Side thing, Tubbies?
I believe so. I think it's a Detroit. I think it's a Detroit
Detroit special.
Originated place.
All right.
But anyway, let's get into some soccer here.
Let's roll.
That was also, by the way, that was not planned like at all. So
now people know.
Yeah, at least they all know about our sub choices. But yeah, let's get into some record breaking here in the game of soccer here in America. This deserves a little bit of a buzz because it's a record break. 47 U.S. soccer refs have been appointed to the FIFA panel. This is a record-breaking thing. I didn't know there was such a thing that we could break the amount of American soccer refs, but apparently so. They've been appointed to the 2026 FIFA International Panel following the nomination process. These selections are in the positions of the center refs, the assistant referees, video match officials, or VMOs, as some people say, futsal refs, and beach soccer refs. Didn't know that was a thing either, making this the highest total effort ever. And Nate, is this a sign of growth of American soccer?
Well, I think we have to look at this in context, right? I think the first thing we have to think about is the fact that the pool is obviously expanded in the World Cup, right? So you have more matches in general, right? You have more matches that you're playing, which is going to necessitate having more referees. And so I think seeing an increase in the amount of referees that are from America isn't necessarily on its face a sign of growth, but I think you really have to look at this deeply, because I remember when we had Alexi Lalas on our show, and the first thing that he talked about was, and we kind of asked him, because the best way to get an understanding of the growth of the game is to ask the guy who was a part of the first iteration of players going overseas to play. He was the first American to go overseas to play. He also came back and he was a part of that first group that started Major League Soccer 30 years ago. And so the question of,
soccer royalty,
we asked him. That's and according to who you ask, I guess you're right. But we asked him what's been the biggest sign of growth in the game, and in my perspective, it was more kids are playing, more people are watching, which is all true. I mean, those are all things, and those are all things that we mentioned on the show yesterday, especially with the new the Ampere analysis that came out that showed us the third most popular sport in the United States. But more importantly than that, he talked about the education behind the game, and most notably the refereeing has gotten so much better. And the knowledge of the game itself and what these referees are equipped with is far better and far greater now than what it was decades ago. What's up, man?
I don't think the referee has gotten better. I've disagreed with a ton of officials my entire playing career. So I would disagree with that statement, Nate. I don't think the referee has gotten better.
I think we're talking about World Cup referees. Now we're not talking about
not the U13 level referees.
No, I mean that's the equivalent of. I'm sure there's people out there who used to play in not minor league ball, but like little league ball, who probably think the same thing about me once upon a time, because I used to be an umpire. I can tell you personally, I'm not umping a World Series anytime soon. So that's probably good or a World Baseball Classic. So that's probably good for everybody involved.
To show the real growth of American soccer is the officiating level at the youth level has to be top notch then, because what I was experiencing a handful of years ago was not top notch. I'll tell you that. But continue. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just had to put it out there that I didn't like the referees at the youth level.
You're good.
Saying.
I didn't like my football referees when I played when I was 13 either, or anybody for that matter. No, I don't think anybody did. But I think they were there for maybe a hot dog voucher and a pop at the concession stand. That's about what they were getting paid.
Enough.
Now they get paid a lot because there's a shortage of referees and coaches, or no one wants to ref, in especially in the U.S. It's bad. It's really bad, but they are. Well, in parents are crazy, coaches are crazy. I think the one thing we get lost a lot of times, and I know that this is kind of taken away from what we're talking about, and I'll get back to the U.S. referee thing here in a second, but it's the perspective about it all. Like, does this game at a park on the corner of these two streets in this random little town in the middle of nowhere, USA. Is this really worth like going to jail over? Is this really worth? Yeah, exactly. And I will say this, and this comes from experience, firsthand experience, especially covering the game with you. I remember when we were doing sideline reporting for the NISA Pro Cup, and I'll say this, and I think you second this opinion, and only because I'm not as close to the source as what I have been with this company. Now I'm kind of in it. Now I see it, and obviously with JT being a former referee, he talks about a lot of different stuff that I'm like, oh, okay, that's not that it doesn't happen in other sports, but sometimes I feel like the verbal abuse of referees in soccer
that's right, dude.
is
Those
far
refs were
worse.
taking a beating.
Everything, man. I mean, when the 4-letter words start flying, like how you just allow that to continue. I don't. Maybe it's they have a longer fuse. Maybe I have.
That's
beyond
right.
me.
Who was the captain of the LA Force? Because he was giving the referee a beating in terms of verbal abuse. It was bad.
Verbal beating.
Every tackle, it was something like, and every time the ball went out, even if it was like a 50-50 play, I was like, it's just a throw in it at the halfway point. But I forgot about that. That's a good pull. I remember that. That was bad. That was bad.
I mean, I know sometimes at higher levels they let a little bit more go. I mean, I know that, in minor league baseball they certainly do. Certain umpires have a longer fuse. Others will toss you as quickly as possible. But anyways, getting back on what we were talking about really quick, I just wanted to include this. 47 officials. That's a record number for the United States. So I think it's natural to think that that would be the case simply because we're playing in the United States. But again, speaking on what Alexi Lala said, speaking on what we know, I don't think it would have been even close to that number. And I would be interested to see what the number was in 1994 when they first had the World Cup here in the United States, because I guarantee you it wasn't anywhere near that number. I guess we have Google to our refs in the 1994 World Cup. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, so I don't think we had many at all. I think we only had a couple. So to go from that to now 47 in 2026, I think just shows the increase in the education of the game. There you get a look at the graphic again. Is it a sign of growth? I think so, but I think it's also more importantly a sign of the educational component is really coming along in the United States. And that's something that even here on the National Soccer Network, we've talked about, educating people on the game is one of the quickest ways to get people to join the game. When you understand a sport, it becomes so much more enjoyable to watch. I think about when I was playing in high school, I played rugby. And, rugby is one of those sports where if you don't know it, yeah, I did. Yeah, for a couple of years I played in high school, and it was a riot, and I enjoyed it. And, of course, me and everybody else, we were all brand new, right? So we're learning it along the ways, and we're still learning things as it goes. But, it's a very tricky sport to learn. But once you learn it, it becomes a million times more enjoyable to watch. And I remember my dad being there, and he enjoyed it, but the only way he really started to fall in love with it, and now he watches Six Nations and everything else along those lines, is he actually understood the game that he was watching. And sometimes when especially the language within the language with soccer, I mean, I remember talking to Neil Rule when we were doing a game. He's talking about stall tactics. He was talking about, different lines and the way that they were moving. He was talking about different challenges. He was talking about, just the game within the game. And when you understand that, it makes it that much better. And when the referees understand what they're doing on the pitch and what the game should look like and feel like and move like, you're going to get a much better product than what you ever did before. And I think that the promising sign about this isn't necessarily the World Cup itself. It's these referees are then going to go to Major League Soccer. They're going to go to the United Soccer League. They're going to be dispersed throughout the American landscape. And we can more accurately rely on referees that know what it is that they're doing, know what it is that they're saying, and understand the game at a higher level than maybe what we did a decade, 2 decades, not even a decade ago. So I do think it is a sign of education, which therefore can lead to growth in one way or another.
Yeah. I would say that the game inside the game is 100% a thing. And I guess yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. If I was watching a Premier League game or Champions League game up at school, and some of my roommates who weren't soccer fans and thought soccer was this and that, because they've never watched it, and that's what the persona is. Growing up is soccer is this wimpy sport, like everyone flops, like that's that, and it's a very complex sport, just like football, basketball, baseball, just like any other
Right.
sport. It's rugby. It's super complex, but when you kind of understand, it's almost like when you're watching football, you'd probably understand more about football, the game inside the game, than I do. I'd kind of just watch it because that's what's on all the time. And
Yeah.
like when you're, oh, you should have ran here, or this guard didn't pull right, didn't get there quick enough, should have had this, or you should have taken this technique instead of that. Like, I don't really
Right.
understand that, but when it comes to soccer, I understand a majority of it, of why they played this way, or maybe why they sat
Yep.
back a little bit more in this particular time than it was before, than the previous 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
it's 100% a game inside of a game, and I think with any sport, once you understand it, and I feel like, especially in the 2026 World Cup, I always feel like after every single World Cup, that the game of soccer kind of grows a little bit more and gains a couple more fans than it normally does. I shouldn't say a couple more fans, but a handful of fans after it, just because of oh, they watched it, and they really liked the World Cup. Like, it's the World Cup, like it's the greatest soccer
Yeah.
event ever. It's the greatest soccer event
Yeah.
that you could possibly have, and they start to, like, oh, I'm curious about this. Let me go learn a little bit more about that. Like, I, for instance, did not watch hockey, like, really at all, until I started, doing the Peak Performance Prep League here, with Sports Nation, and here at the Premier Media Group, and all that stuff, and URI hockey, like all that fun stuff. And once I started broadcasting it, it just happens to be that the Red Wings are, a pretty good team, that I start watching more Red Wings games than I did previously, because I didn't really understand anything about hockey. I didn't understand anything about that. I didn't like play it or anything. Didn't have friends that played it. But now I started broadcasting it, and not only am I trying to listen to what the broadcasters are saying, but I'm also trying to understand, like, different scenarios, different things like that. So I think you're 100% right, Nate. Once you're educated on something, you want to not only help the uneducated in that sport, but
Yeah.
it becomes much more enjoyable that way.
Well, and not only that, but it gives the players that are playing a better understanding of how the game moves, and how it should look, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. It's tough to find direction and really kind of gauge an understanding of where you stand and what the game actually is when you have people that are directing it, or people that are out on the field, referees, specifically, that don't exactly know what it is that they're doing. Not saying they don't understand the game, because there's a difference in my mind. There's a gap between understanding the game and understanding the game. I think we can both talk about it. You just mentioned that, right? Like, we know, and and I know, that you got to get 10 yards to get a first down in football. You know what I mean? In soccer, you can't be behind the back defender once the ball is released. That's an offsides, right? Like, we know these basic things about these sports, but when you really 47 referees in this record number for the World Cup, it shows that we are doing a much better job, and we have been in the United States, of educating people on the game. And I think that comes down to clubs. I think it comes down to referee organizations, and putting people in the right places to learn those things. But I think it also, Ryan, at the end of the day, I think it shows a willingness to learn too. And I think more referees are not only joining the sport, but are making themselves available to learn more. And that's all we want, really, in the United States, is just a willingness to learn. And speaking of Alexi Lalas, I mean, he went on, what was it? I think it was Cowherd's show, about a month ago, and he actually said that, and Colin Cowherd, all respect in the world to that guy, because he talked about some guys in sports don't really admit when they're wrong, that they're not very good at admitting when they're wrong. I got to give Colin a little bit of credit, because I feel like he does, and that's one thing he does as a segment every week, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong, and he admits when he's talking to Alexi Lalas, he goes, I'm going to be the first to admit it. He goes, I don't know the first thing about soccer. I'm
Yeah, I've
not
seen that.
very educated on this. And Alexi Lalas goes, that doesn't matter. He goes, that's the fact that you're coming from step one or ground zero. That's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. Like, we want people to admit, hey, maybe I don't know as much about this sport. Maybe I don't know as much about how these games move or what I should expect when I'm watching team A or team B, or how the game moves, or I'm confused about this call or that call, or the, you just have to have a willingness to be an open book to educate yourself on the game, because that's when I think we start to see the real growth in the United States. When people get away from this, oh, it's not a physical game, and they start to understand just how physical of a game it is. Like, we were talking about Detroit City FC. Go to a Detroit City FC game. Sit close to the field. Good. It's close to the pitch. You're going to get an understanding as to how physical it is.
Yeah.
I did a Flint City game against Liga MX team. Who was it? Somebody last year. Team from Mexico City, Guadalajara, I think is where they were from. Which, by the way, Guadalajara that's a unique story in and of itself. We can touch on that at some point
right.
if we want. But from Mexico, and they played against Flint City. Oh my God, it was like freaking lucha libre out there, man. I mean, they were like wrestling, but that's just the way they play, right? That's the style of play. And so that, in my mind, that even opened my eyes up to like, oh, okay. So not everywhere in the world do we play the way that we play here. Some places in the world, it's about defense, and it's about putting you on the ground if you're not paying attention, with the ball on your foot, and if you're not releasing it quick enough, so all the 47 referees, it is what it is. I don't think anyone's going to lose their mind over, hey, this referee's from the United States. I don't think anybody cares, right? The referees are not the show. Same with the broadcasters. We are not the show. The refs are not the show. What people came to watch is what's on the field between the two teams. But if you have referees who know what they're talking about, they know how the game moves, they know how to really kind of do their job, essentially, it's just going to make the product that much better and that much less clunky, because that's one of the biggest complaints, if I were to say, about soccer, which, it's not the only sport that's like this, but sometimes it can be very stop and go. It can be very stop and go. And so when you have refs that know how to control that, and some of that's natural, some of that's not going to go away. It's stall tactics, like teams do that, but it's good. It's good to know that we have an increase of referees who are good enough at their jobs to coach on a World Cup level. 47 of them. That's pretty impressive. That's not just any game. That's the World Cup.
Yeah, no, it'll be something to. I think maybe if there's an American referee that messes up a decision or something, someone might say, "Oh, it's because he's an American referee." This. So I could definitely see that being something that happens in the future. But no, it's something great to see here, and I'm glad that Americans not only are growing as growing as players, but also on the referee side. Now, if we could just eventually turn some of those people into the higher ups for the U.S. Soccer Federation, then I think we're really going to be starting to cook with grease here in the terms of American soccer.
Speaking of higher ups in U.S. soccer, little rumor floating around. Man United obviously just sacked their manager. ESPN just recently came out with 12 different potential replacements for him coming up, and some names on that list. One of them you might notice if you're a U.S. men's national team fan. We'll talk about that a little bit coming up next. Part 2 of our first hour here on Inside the Game. Back live on episode 203 of Inside the Game, part 2 of our first hour here on episode 203. Talked a little bit about breaking a record for U.S. referees in the World Cup during our last segment. Transitioning now to the international side. Man United sacked yet another manager, just mere months into the position, or around half a year. Yeah, well, you say wop wop wop, but I mean, I feel you're pretty happy about this. You like seeing Man United struggle a little bit, so I mean, it might be bad news for some, good news for you though. Just saying.
Again, I mean, I didn't mind if Ruben Amorim was still there. It wouldn't matter. I would say that they just continue to go in this endless loop of managers ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left, and it's got to have been, 13 or 2014, 2013, one of those years, but this legendary manager. And ever since then, they have not been able to find a good enough replacement. And even if they have a decent enough replacement, they still fire him or sack him, whatever way you want to go with it that way. But they just can't seem to get it done, and I enjoy every minute of it.
And they're going to pull out all the stops to try and find their next man. Maybe someone who can stick for a little bit longer than that. Obviously, it's been a tough decade, as you mentioned, for Man United. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to go rapid fire, or maybe not rapid fire, but I'm going to list every single one of these coaches on this list, and I want you to tell the people why it might be a smart choice or not a smart choice for them to go after this particular manager. Does that work for you?
Yeah, and then if the manager that I'm thinking of should be the manager is not on the list, I will give that one. But if he shows up, then I will say that's who it is.
You got a plan. All right. Sounds good. Let's start off with number 1 on the list from ESPN. They are saying Oliver Glasner from Crystal Palace, 51-year-old, favors a 3-man defense. So if United wanted to stick with that, they could stick with that. How do you feel about Oliver Glasner potentially taking the spot?
So Crystal Palace, Glasner. The thing is he has not signed a contract extension with Crystal Palace, and of course Crystal Palace. Some people might know our man Chris Richards over there. He's one of the center backs. The only issue I would say with Crystal Palace is it's a place where they used to be able to produce talent without purchasing it through their academy year in and year out, but they have been able to produce at that high level. You think of what they almost lost and what they did lose this summer in Eberechi Eze going to Arsenal. They lost Olise to Bayern Munich, I think, the year before. But they've constantly been losing their players. Mark Gahey might be a player that they lose in January. So if I'm Glasner, I think that's a fine option. You could still play at 3 at the back. But the only thing that he won't have to deal with is his players getting poached constantly with Manchester United. So I don't mind that one, but I don't think that's the best one.
All right, let's move on. We got Kieran McKenna. By the way, Glasner's been a trophy winner in his last 2 stops, so I imagine,
FA Cup, you're right.
As the reputation. Kieran McKenna out of Ipswich Town, only 39 years old. 2 promotions. Was interviewed for the Chelsea job actually in 2024. Ipswich Town is obviously they're pushing for promotion back to the Premier League, so they're trying to accomplish that. But Kieran McKenna, the 39-year-old, also another man in the run, potentially for the spot.
So McKenna, it's whether or not he himself wants to see this project out, I think, because once Manchester United calls, they're gonna want to jump at that, especially at a manager that has been doing it with Ipswich Town, a much smaller club, and still trying to fight promotion. It's whether or not McKenna wants to still eventually see Ipswich go into the Premier League, and if he wants to manage that whole season. But we have seen his expression of wanting to manage bigger clubs, like we saw with Chelsea, who that's another club where managers just constantly circulate in and out. I don't think a club like Manchester United would go that route, just because of how young he is and he hasn't done it in a top flight yet. So I would say no, I don't think they would do it, but I think it's definitely an option maybe 5-10 years down the line.
All right, let's go. Next on the line, Gareth Southgate. Now, obviously he's unemployed, but he's the former England manager. He left after the Euros in 2024. 55 years old. How do you feel about maybe Gareth Southgate taking that position?
So Southgate, I don't know if he's managed a club. I know he's done the English national team.
He's the international. Yeah, yep.
So I don't know if they would want to go that route, or he would want to go that route, or Manchester United would want to go that route. But here's the thing. Southgate gets a ton of hate for, I feel like, no reason. He has done a fine job with England. Sure, maybe you can argue the way that they play in the terms of people that they've had, but England, Southgate has gotten you to a World Cup semifinal twice. He's gotten you to a Euro finals. You have not won the World Cup since the 60s. And
Yeah.
I think Southgate is a fine manager. The only question that I would say is, how would he be able to identify, try to buy talent in the market? I don't think they would go get Southgate in terms of that. But I think Southgate's a fine manager, and I think he did a great job with England. I know he would get a ton of Manchester United fans would be upset that they would be getting Southgate, but I think he's a fine manager. So, again, I think that's no, because I don't think Manchester United's in the business of getting a manager who hasn't managed at the club level. But I think Southgate's fine. But that's
taking a look
interesting
at
one.
the next one. So you need does he have a last name? I don't know. ESPN, you tell me. XAVI. I imagine that's Javi.
Xavi.
Xavi. All right. Sorry, dumb American over here. Former Barcelona coach, obviously guided Barca to the 2020 Barca, that is 22-23 La Liga title. 45, keen to work in the Premier League, obviously his availability makes him an attractive candidate. How do you feel about maybe Xavi stepping in for Man United?
Xavi's not one that I really thought of, but I like that. I like Xavi if he would become a manager, because I thought what he did at Barcelona, especially we also got to paint the picture of what Xavi inherited at Barcelona. He inherited, not only was the generation and the era that he himself played in at Barcelona. He was playing with the Messis, the David Villas, the Neymars, the Iniestas. So when you lose that amount of talent, and not only is your owner a massive crook, and Barcelona is paying for things that they don't even have the money to pay for, and you have this financial burden on yourself, and then you have the academy in La Masia. I think I said that right. I probably said it wrong, but that's not the point. But in the academy, the injection of youth talent through the academy into Barcelona, I thought he did a fine job. You said he won the league in La Liga. But I think Xavi, and that was his first managerial. No, that was a second, because I forgot that was a second managerial stop. I think Xavi would be really good with Manchester United, especially with the books that they have. I think Xavi would be really good,
even with his lack of experience against Premier League opponents as a manager. I know you said he played with some of the best.
He still did it in La Liga. He still played Champions League. So, sure, I guess you could say that. But again, at the same time, Pep Guardiola came over here and did the same thing, and he was Bundesliga and La Liga, and he's been making it work. Jurgen Klopp did the same thing, but doing just Bundesliga. So, yeah, I think he could do it. I think it would be fine.
All right, next on that list, Michael Carrick, currently unemployed. One previous spell as interim manager at United. So he was already with United at one point. 3 games in 2021. 44 years old. 3-year spell managing Middlesbrough in the EFL Championship. How do you feel about Michael Carrick? I guess a little interesting to see someone who's already been in that position on the list. I don't know if United would go back to someone that they gave 3 games to, but how do you feel about Michael Carrick in this spot?
I'd say no. Carrick, maybe you have him as a caretaker manager, as an interim again. Maybe you go that route, but as the permanent one, no. I don't think Carrick. I don't even think Carrick wants to at this point, because I think Manchester United as a club is a mess anyway. But no, I don't think Carrick would want to. I don't think Manchester United would want to have that manager. It wasn't great at Middlesbrough, so I would say no to Michael Carrick. Probably I wouldn't say a club legend, but he's been a part of a couple massive teams over there, but I would say no.
All right, let's go to the next one. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. How do you pronounce that?
Ole's at the wheel.
There we go.
Ole's at the wheel.
Remains a hugely popular figure among United fans. I mean, United finished the 2020-21 season Premier League runners-up, so he's been there. He nearly won a Premier League championship in the 2020-21 season. Does he fit in this spot?
First off, I would say in that season that it wasn't close in terms of the title with Solskjaer. I will say this. Solskjaer was arguably probably the best manager for a stint there post Sir Alex Ferguson. Maybe you could argue Jose Mourinho. Maybe you could argue Louis van Gaal, because I think he won a Europa League. But anyway, he's already expressed interest of wanting to be the caretaker manager, Would he be the permanent one? Probably not at this point. But again, I love the Ole at the wheel memes because once they started getting beat. But no, he was impressive as the interim with Manchester United. And I think he'd do a fine job as the interim trying to stabilize the ship. But no, not the permanent one. Not the permanent.
Or maybe you go out and snag someone else who's from another team in your same league. How about Enzo Maresca, who was obviously out of work now, just leaving Chelsea last week, 18-month stint at Stamford Bridge, delivered a lot of success. Conference League, FIFA World Cup, Club World Cup, that is.
Yeah, he won the World
his
Cup
availability.
with Chelsea.
Yeah, no, he did not. But he had a lot of success at Chelsea, and so I think that could be another potential really good candidate. We'll get into the summer candidates here in a second, but how do you feel about Enzo?
Enzo, see, the only thing with Enzo is I think he did a fine job. I think with Chelsea, again, mismanaged club. Chelsea, I don't know why they even got rid of Maresca. Yeah, he had a couple bad run of form, but Chelsea's not competing for a Premier League title this year. They're just not. They got close a little bit, and as Chelsea normally does around this time is where they fall off. But the only thing I would say about Maresca is I don't know if he would want Manchester United because of one thing. I don't know what Pep Guardiola is going to do after this year. I think this is his final year. I don't think he has another year on his contract. I don't think he has signed one. But I would say I don't know if Pep is staying at Man City after this year. Maybe Maresca wants to just take this time off, see what happens with Manchester City if Pep comes back. Maybe he looks elsewhere. Maybe he looks at Manchester United specifically. But I would say that would be a really good choice if I'm Manchester United, but I don't know if Maresca wants it.
So, like, what's crazy to me, and we'll get on to our following predictions, but I realize he had a bad spell, but you just won a Club World Cup. Like,
That's how Chelsea works. When you have,
I guess that's how United works too.
That's
I realize.
Anyways, you have the owner of the Dodgers, and you want to just win World Series and championships, and money is the solution to everything. That's what you're going to get in the game of soccer, regardless if you progressed from the previous season or not. That's just what's going to happen.
All right, let's move on to the next one here on this list. I don't know if I agree with it, but you're right. I mean, I guess that's how the Dodgers move a little bit. There's an expectation there. You're going to win all the time. You're going to win championships all the time. So that's just kind of how it works. Thomas Tuchel. All right, so we're going to talk about summer candidates here. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Tuchel. Thomas
Tuchel. All right, I'm trying. England manager spoke to United about succeeding the previous manager in the summer of 2024 before opting return to club management. He's only 52 years old, pretty much checks every box for United. He won the Champions League with Chelsea, also managed Bayern Munich. There's a lot of things that he's done in his career. So could be someone who fits well. What says you?
This is I'm going to say the same thing for the other manager that's on this list, and it hits pretty close to home. I think he wants to just manage the World Cup and then go from there. And we're going to say the exact same thing to the other one that you're going to mention at some point. No, I think Tuchel would be a fine option if he wasn't the manager of England, but he's managing England right now. He wants to manage in the World Cup. That's, I'm sure, something on every soccer coach's bucket list at some point in their career. So I would say no. After the World Cup, maybe, and I think Tuchel would be fine, but not right now.
All right, so moving on to the next one, and this is the one that we obviously previewed coming into the conversation, and there was a rumor floating around for a while that this particular manager was shopping for jobs, looking around. Maybe that's why he was distracted, and his international team that he was managing was losing matches. Maybe that's why. Maybe he was distracted. Obviously, he's turned things around, and going into the holiday season, those international windows looked a lot better, and there's a lot of great individual players who are starting to emerge. And this particular manager loves the movie Miracle. He fell in love with it because he wants to be an honorary American. But after the World Cup, you bet your bottom dollar he's eyeing going back to the club level, especially at the highest levels in the Premier League. Mauricio Pochettino, the next one on this list. Under contract until after the World Cup. Sources told ESPN that he will be open to a return to club management. I think that's a given. I think he wants to go back. but they've considered Pochettino 3 times over the last 10 years. So, I mean, they've been in his ear. They've been talking to him. Obviously, Mauricio Pochettino's had a lot of success. Where do you think Poch is someone that could be a shoo-in for this spot once the World Cup has completed?
Again, Poch was brought here strictly for the World Cup. After the fact, he's always going to have the desire to go back and want to coach, whether that – I mean, he was impressive at Tottenham and PSG. Would he do it now? No. I think it's wait till after the World Cup. He wants to manage the World Cup. I mean, he's gotten so far at this point in kind of has the U.S. going in a upward trajectory based on what we saw at the end of the season. So I would say no to this one after the World Cup. I think absolutely. I think he has this desire to go back to the club level at some point, but for right now, no.
All right. Well, and I would agree. I would have to see, obviously the remainder of this list, but I do think it is worth noting that, that you're right. I mean, you talked about it. They brought him here for the World Cup. And so what can he do in that regard? But, from a professional perspective, why would he not want to go back to those top leagues? Why would he not want to be back in the Premier League? So anyways, Poch being on that list does not surprise me at all. So we'll see exactly what United decides to decide with that. Carlo Ancelotti out of Brazil, 66 years old. But hey, if they want an experienced coach with a good track record, they got him. I mean, multiple Champions League championships with AC Milan, Real Madrid, also coached at Bayern Munich, Juventus, PSG, Napoli, Chelsea. I mean, like, my guy's been all over the place 2 times around. Do they go the older route and go get someone like Carlo?
No. Again, he's still the manager of Brazil at the moment. World Cup, same thing. Same spiel. But I think Ancelotti's a coach, a manager that is there 2-3 years tops, and then at the end of the year, it's just like pulling teeth because the players disagree with his ideology. He's disagreeing with everything, and it just gets stale at that point. I also don't know if Ancelotti wants to rebuild a club. And I think that's kind of the persona that they should look for as a manager that wants to rebuild Manchester United. I think Ancelotti is not a good option for both parties here because Man United should be looking for a rebuilding manager at some point, and Ancelotti does not fit that.
All right, we got 2 more on this list. Julian Nagelsmann, I believe, is Nagelsmann is how you pronounce that. Germany coach under contract, same thing until the Euro 2028, but his future could depend on the outcome of his team's World Cup campaign. I think that's natural to expect. Only 38 years old, right? So this is back on kind of the younger side of the spectrum like we were talking about earlier. But he's kind of rebuilt his reputation in the Germany job. A turbulent 18-month stretch at Bayern Munich obviously ended with him getting fired in 2023. But he's built his reputation back with success at the club level. Is this someone who can make a rebound and be in that spot for Man United?
Again, just depends on the World Cup, whatever he does there. But I think he'd be a fantastic fit with Manchester United. I think he would be someone that would want to try and rebuild things there at United. He went to Bayern Munich. He managed there at a younger age in terms of managerial age. So he's definitely already been through the thick of it at this point. But I think he'd be really good. I thought, and you also got to say that Bayern Munich team went up against a team that didn't lose a single game the whole year, and Bayer Leverkusen or Bayer never losing, as they were called, with Xabi Alonso as the manager and all the players that they had, Florian Wirtz, Frimpong, they were really good, that Bayer Leverkusen team. Even Granit Xhaka was on the team. Forgot about him. But no, I don't see him. If he gets the job, it'd be after the World Cup, and depending on what Germany does. But I think Nagelsmann would be really good.
All right, last one on this list, Andoni Iraola, out of AFC Bournemouth. He's earned praise. Bournemouth, sorry. He's earned praise for his work turning the Cherries into a team that consistently overperforms at its budget, right? So he's doing a lot with a little, I guess, in his current position, whether it's his high-energy style or his work ethic, whatever it may be, something that may be attractive to Man United. Where do you fall on him?
You got awfully close to the one that I say who should be the manager of Manchester United. Same from the
Wow.
same. You got close. And they're both from the same region in terms of the world. In Spain, but no, I think Areola would be really good. Maybe he would bring a Tyler Adams with him to Manchester United. You'd have to wait and see. But again, Bournemouth, they've lost Hoyton this past summer to Real Madrid. Really good young center back. And then I think they're already set to lose Semenyo to Manchester United this season. Really good winger. So again, he has done, like you said, does a lot more with less. And I think he would be a very good fit. I didn't even think of him as the option, but I think he'd be a really good fit. Right now with Bournemouth, it's a rough stretch right now. I don't think they've won a game in over a month at this point. But you can definitely see that his teams fight all the time. They fight for each other. They fight for the manager, and they always give it their all every single time. And that's something that Manchester United has lacked for years, is that toughness, that fight towards the end of games. So yeah, Areola was not the manager I was going to say, but I really like that fit for Manchester United. I really do. He's been in the Premier League before, done a lot with less, as you mentioned, and I think he'd be really good. I think that's a really good one.
All right, so we got through 12. All 12 that ESPN said would probably be the best bet for Man United to go after for the managerial position. And somehow we weren't able to get to the man that you think would be the best fit for the spot.
You got awfully close with that last one.
I mean, so we got really close with number 12. Took all the way to number 12 to find someone that was close. So I guess I'll open up the floor to you, Ryan Glinski. You're in that position. You're running Man United. Who are you bringing in to be the next manager?
I'm going after Unai Emery at this point. I think that is. Could say, oh, he had a bad spell at Arsenal. But again, Arsenal was not patient. Maybe Manchester United doesn't want to be patient again. But look
Any personal bias involved in this one?
There's no Arsenal bias. No, none at all.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I got Arteta at this point. It doesn't matter. But no, I would say I think you do, because look at what he did with Aston Villa. He's gotten them into the Champions League. Aston Villa? Who would have ever thought that? And especially with, kind of the way that the club was going for a while there, with Tim Sherwood back in the 2010s. And the club has just constantly gone up like this. Is he going to win a Premier League at Aston Villa? Is he going to win a Champions League at Aston Villa? No, he's not going to win anything with Aston Villa in terms of significance. He then would get the resources he needs at Manchester United. The only thing that I have a question on is, would he be given the time in the transfer windows to transform Manchester United? We have to wait to be seen, but he's been given the time at Aston Villa, and he's done a phenomenal job with it. And I think Unai Emery would be really good. And the only reason I say you got it close with is because Areola and Unai Emery are from the same area in Spain, in the San Sebastian Basque Country area. So that's why I was going to say Unai Emery, and you got close with Areola. But I think Unai Emery is my personal pick if I was Manchester United, to get him as the next manager of Manchester United. Will they do it? Probably not, because Emery's got a good thing going on with Aston Villa. But Manchester United's got a little bit of a pull because it's Manchester United.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. I mean, it's the brand, right? Like, you can build all you want with the resources that you have, and he's done a great job with the team he's at. But, I mean, I guess if I were to make an American sports comparison, it's like a coach going from the MAC to the Big Ten. It's just, you have bigger branding. You have more resources available to you. I always think about someone like a PJ Fleck at Western Michigan. Like, yeah, in a perfect world, he sticks around for his entire career and he makes them but that's just not realistic. It's not realistic to think. And so, but on Man United side, do you try to go out and make a splash and get someone that is not, further on down the line, maybe someone newer, maybe someone younger? I know you talked about maybe the youth wouldn't be the direction that they want to go, but if you want to talk about getting high energy back into the building and just a high motor and a manager that is really going to instill that, I don't know, maybe you go the younger route. But it looks like we got 5 minutes until the end of our first segment. I wanted to ask you this really quick, because I know you posted this on social media. I know it's not an official point on our rundown here today, but you had something that you were talking about yesterday that surprised me a little bit. I thought people were responding thusly. Weston McKennie potentially coming back to Major League Soccer. Could that be the move for someone like Weston McKennie? Now, I'd be a little bit surprised, because he's been playing great this year. I mean, I think he's better than MLS caliber, But what is it that led you to believe that Weston McKennie could potentially make a move to come back to the U.S. and play?
Well, again, I wanted to go a little bit more in depth tomorrow at some point with this because I think you could make this case about a couple of players, and I know we've talked about this before with JT a couple months ago about if these Americans overseas could make it into the MLS after the World Cup. But so Juventus again, I've never understood this with Juventus. Weston McKennie is constantly performs at a high level for Juventus, but there's always after every single season, it's he's going to lose his spot. He's an American. He can't do it at this stage anymore. So I never understood that, and now it's come full circle that Juventus has no desire to renew Weston McKennie's contract that is up at the end of the summer. So that's why McKennie's on the move, and you wonder if there is a club in the MLS, and let's get rid of the Inter Miami. It would not be Inter Miami.
Miami.
He would not come to Miami. It would be an LA team. Maybe it's an FC Dallas, but I don't think so because he's from there. But if anything, it would be an LA or a New York team, and just my guess. But you wonder if after the World Cup, if there is any players, maybe like a Gio Reyna at some point, is there a player like that of that caliber that's not a Christian Pulisic that's lighting it up overseas? Do they eventually make that move back? And is there a club that wants to give that money to that club? Well, actually, McKennie would be a free agent at that point, so you'd just be paying his salary at this point. So, yeah, you just wonder if maybe there's a club in the MLS that wants to give up a X amount of money, a big amount of money, to bring a Weston McKennie over because, again, we talked about yesterday, converting some of these overseas fans into MLS fans, and that would most certainly move the needle into fans wanting to watch the MLS, especially if they're a U.S. men's national team fan because you want to see your own guy play. That's why sometimes I always tune into to Bournemouth, even though they suck. But not anymore because he's hurt. But Tyler Adams was playing, so I would tune in a couple times just to see how he's doing. So I think that would certainly move the needle in terms of funneling some of those soccer fans into becoming MLS fans. And that's just why I posed it because we talked about that earlier in the day. And so, no, I think it's something that could happen. Will it? I don't think so because I think McKennie's the type of player that wants to stay overseas, challenge himself. And I think ultimately that's what all the players want to do is they still want to stay overseas. That's where the best is. They want to challenge themselves. I think once they get 31, 32, 30 maybe, sure, you could see him coming to the MLS. But I don't think McKennie's that type of player, but it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, the truth is that Major League Soccer is not struggling for funds, so they should be able to pay him. They should be able, these certain franchises, handful of them, should be able to pay him whatever it is he wants because they do have the financial means to make it happen. But can they make it happen? Can they convince someone like a Weston McKennie that you got to come back to the United States and play, and convince him beyond a doubt that that's the right choice for his career? Because you think of how old is Weston McKennie?
I think he's mid-20s.
What, 27 years old? I mean, he's, it's, I don't know, what's old in soccer standards? I don't know.
That's a little
Once you crack 30, I guess. I don't know, but
no, I think he still wants to stay overseas a little bit and still compete because, we kind of, I feel like us as a show a little bit and as the soccer community here in the United States I feel like we're trying to make it out to be that this World Cup, this 2026 World Cup, yeah, it's at home, but like if we don't do well, it's the end of soccer in America. That's not the case. There is still a 2030 World Cup.
Yeah.
There is still a 2034. Yep. There's still a 2038. So, and just because if ultimately we're not winning the World Cup in this year and we're not going, if we can make a run, even if we don't, it's not the end all for American soccer, especially some of these players, but it's definitely amped up a little bit. But even if McKennie, in the U.S. doesn't have this massive showing in the World Cup that we would like, he's still a really good player, and there's definitely another club in Europe, probably in Serie A, that would want to bring him in.
Well, if Mauricio Pochettino is serious about the movie Miracle, let's hope he's Herb Brooks and carries them to an inconceivable World Cup championship. I don't know if it's going to happen. Probably not going to happen. But either way, appreciate you guys joining us here on hour 1 of Inside the Game. All of our soccer exclusive fans, appreciate you guys stopping by again. You can check us out, National Soccer Network. Go give us a follow, especially on TikTok. We got some stuff coming out every single day. But coming up next, hour 2, our all sports segment. We're going to take a deep look. What the heck is going on with the transfer portal? 4,000 players in the transfer portal, and it's starting to get messy. It's starting to get more messy every single year. It's one particular player we're going to be looking at. Also, the question of portal or recruiting. That's the question now in college athletics. And is this going to put high school athletes out of a position to actually break into the college scene? Is this taking opportunities away from them since we have guys sticking around for 5-6 years and making the money that they're making? It's turning into a professional league very quickly. We'll talk about that on the other side right here on Inside the Game.
Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs. From high-quality production to exceptional coverage, we ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today. Call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast and let NSN bring the action to life like never before.
Second hour of Inside the Game, episode 203, live on the National Soccer Network, wherever you're watching us here today, whether you're watching us on Roku, YouTube, or anywhere else along the lines. Appreciate you guys stopping by, as always. Appreciate our live viewers. Again, make sure you go check out our social media pages. Again, dropping new stuff every single day. Now into the all sports portion of our podcast here today on episode 203. And Ryan, we got some messy stories. The drama that goes on in college football now is comparable to that of a soap opera. And I think people like it because I think it's turning, again, I think college athletics is slowly turning into professional. And I think everybody kind of sees the writing on the wall when it comes to that. I don't know how long the NCAA is going to be able to hold on to control because they didn't create a system that was fair. All they did was they opened up the floodgates and they allowed everyone to just start spending money and throwing money around every which way. And so does that make it better? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, I think it might drag the product down because now we've created really a Wild West in college football. But there's one particular player that we're looking at right now and the story surrounding it, which just continues to I feel like get more messy by the day. And it has everything to do with Washington football. Damon Williams, tell me what you know about that situation.
Yeah, so this broke a little bit yesterday, last night, as I pull it up for you. Damon Williams Jr., messy saga. So yesterday, Washington quarterback Damon Williams Jr. has announced he is in the transfer portal, despite signing a new contract to stay at Washington on January 2nd. Like, it was already announced on the 2nd that he'd be signing a new extension. Washington has said, though, they have no intent to release Williams from his contract, and Williams hasn't filed any paperwork with Washington compliance officers that he's entering the transfer portal. Hasn't even told the team. He just announced it via his social media. Speculation is, though, that that Lane Kiffin is currently tampering with Williams, as Williams was committed once to Ole Miss back in 2022. And if you want to dig a little bit deeper into the rabbit hole, Sam Leavitt, the former Arizona State quarterback, was on a visit yesterday to LSU, and it seemed to be that this was the final stop. This was a done deal. All of a sudden, Sam Leavitt is now taking a visit to Tennessee later on this week, so they're thinking DeMond Williams has something to do with that. But the issue is Williams signs a contract, and Washington is completely fine with taking a lawyer lawsuit, taking this to court, and DeMond said, "Nah, I'm going to LSU." I don't know what to think. Like, this is just crazy at this point. This isn't the first time this has happened. It also happened with a cornerback with Washington going to or Wisconsin going to Miami. But I don't remember how that one played out. But this isn't the first time. And the only thing I would say about this is he just announced it. Like, he didn't tell Jed. He didn't tell anyone at Washington about anything. And this is just the wild, wild west that we live in terms of college football.
Did Lane Kiffin buy him a cheeseburger?
You can buy anything you want at this point.
Okay. Well, just making sure. I know we were all up in arms about cheeseburgers a few years ago, so I wasn't sure if that was allowed anymore, or if we've officially graduated. Yeah, cheeseburgers are okay. Okay. All right. Just making sure. I just wanted to check in on all those crazies who have
maybe it was just a bad cheeseburger
inferiority complex. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But anyways, moving on. No, it's ridiculous. There are no regulations to anything as it pertains to NIL and the transfer portal. None. Zero. You have 4,000 players in the portal right now. But here's what I'll say, Ryan Glinski. If coaches are able to leave in 5 seconds, if Brian Kelly's able to just disappear and be at LSU's campus, if Lane Kiffin is willing to bail on his team before potentially making a run to a national championship to go to LSU, what makes you think the Tigers won't do something like this? To go snag up somebody who just signed a contract. Why are there no legal repercussions? Why is he not being held legally accountable for the document he just signed? I don't like praising the National Football League. Okay, I think the NFL is just as slimy as any major league in the United States. And we see it every single year, the lack of care for player safety. Even after concussion, even after all that stuff, hey, let's add another week to the NFL season. Hey, let's not, actually. I think they play enough damn games as it is. But the one thing I have to give the NFL credit for is they have their stuff together. You can demand a trade. You can sit out. You can do these things. Okay, but when you're locked into a contract, you are locked into a contract. You don't just get to one day wake up and go, hey, I'm out of here. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to announce it on social media. I mean, we got kids going on freaking 4 or 5 schools because they have an inability to be coachable and to do what they need to do to succeed at the place that they're at. I'm all for the transfer portal and helping out kids who absolutely are not in fair positions. I talked about a story on this podcast not long ago. Buddy I knew at Cornerstone University who went from golfing at an NAIA school to playing football at an NAIA school to then transferring to Purdue in his final year to play offensive guard, and he played against Ohio State and Michigan. That's awesome. That is what the portal is designed for. Isaac Tesla is a good example. You go from Hillsdale to Arkansas. Trinidad Chambliss is another great example. This is not what the portal was created for. I don't take a single damn thing the NCAA has to say about anything serious. I don't take any of it serious anymore. You don't have a set of standards to go by when it comes to transfer portal and kids leaving schools and going elsewhere. I don't want to hear about anything slimy recruiting. Okay? And the Michigan thing is, I don't want to bring this into it because it really has nothing to do with it. But if you don't think the NCAA was just trying to make an example out of Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, you're deaf, dumb, and blind. You are all three of them, all at the same time. You show me the man, I'll show you the crime. It's an old line, and that's what the NCAA did. But we're going to let Lane Kiffin tamper with recruiting and try and steal kids away from other schools. We're seeing this everywhere. You know, I would love to single out this kid and be like, hey, well, wow, this is a rare example. This doesn't happen. We've never seen this before. We see it all the time. And I know I'm over here getting fired up, but this is why I'm telling you, this is why college sports is becoming old news. This is why people don't really care. And a lot of old diehard college fans don't really care anymore. All of the things that the NCAA has done are good in principle. Number one, paying kids. All for it. Okay, if you have physical gifts and you are from a very bad part of the United States and you are coming and generating all this money, whether it be TV revenue, whether it be any of the other things, ad sales, jerseys, whatever it may be that you are generating, yes, you deserve a cut of the check. Okay, revenue sharing is the way. Because if I'm producing the money, if I'm getting the eyeballs, I deserve a cut of the pie. That's how that goes. All right, so in principle, that's really good. I want athletes to get paid. I want those kids to have some sort of financial backing so they don't have to go back to the south side of Chicago with their golf degree and try and find a job. It's not going to happen. And I'm sorry, degrees don't land you jobs anymore. Sue me. Sue me. So paying kids is a good thing. I like it. Did they create a system that's fair and accurate? No. They said, hey, donors. Donors. You know, especially in the SEC, after doing it for decades and decades, or Mr. Sweater now. Vest at Ohio State, Sweater Vest, Mr. Moneybags. Yeah, it's legal. Just whatever amount of money you want to pay these kids, let's pay Bryce Underwood more than $10 million before he's even played a snap. I mean, he's driving a freaking what? I don't forget what car he bought, but he's driving that around Detroit. Like he's great. No, you suck. And you did suck.
9 touchdowns.
9. So, in theory, that's great. I love paying kids. I'm going to let you get your opinion on this here for a second, but I'm just getting this all out there, all right? No, you didn't create a system that was fair. You want to give kids an opportunity to transfer and play right away. I'm all for it. I don't like the idea that you had to sit out a year. I don't think that's fair. There are coaches who will make promises and do anything they can to get you into the program, and then they won't play you. I can't tell you how many times on College Football 25 I told a recruit he's going to be playing every day, and then I don't play him for the freaking whole time. All right, I know that's not real life, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many times that's happened. All right, and so I'm all for it. But now we have 4,000 kids in the transfer portal.
That's a third of the players.
How are you even going to stand a chance if you're a high school athlete? How are you even going to stand a chance as a high school athlete? You're not.
Well,
and this is going to affect. No, I get it. But you're not going to find the opportunities right away. You're not going to play right away. And this parlays us into this next question, and I want to get your opinion on the Damon Williams, Damon Williams story, because I do think it's interesting, and I do want to hear what you want to say about it. But obviously, that plays into our next question of portal or recruiting. I know that high school athlete, you're still going to have to go get high school athletes. It's not like you have an unlimited number of college guys who are going to stick around for forever. And I'm all for change. But the NCAA as an organization continues to show us that they're not capable of running the show anymore. They're not capable.
No.
And this is another glaring example of that. But go ahead, Ryan. How do you feel about this whole thing?
For the Damon Williams thing, it's more of just an accountability thing at this point. Like you say you're signing a contract extension or so for the people at home, most of these NIL deals are just a yearly thing, kind of just like scholarships are a yearly thing. So you can't just there's no way I don't see, maybe Bryce Underwood is the only exception where they get a multiple year deal, like maybe, but most of these contracts are just 1 year thing, and you have to renegotiate, re-recruit your players. And Washington, clearly he likes Jed Fish because he originally committed to Arizona, and then Jed Fish took the Washington job right after DeBoer left, and obviously got that job. And Damon obviously follows him to UW, so he obviously likes him. My issue is once you sign that contract, it's pen on paper. It's pen on paper. You can't without maybe if Damon then pays Washington back the money that he's supposed to be owed, then or anything that he's gotten through this contract, then sure, you could say that, or maybe there's a legal thing where he has to pay then out of his own pocket to get out of this contract, then sure, like that's a fine way to do it, as long as there's some repercussion for doing this. But knowing college football here, knowing college football, LSU then would just probably just pay Damon Williams that contract money that he owes Washington. If he's smart, he'll do that. But I would say it's just an accountability thing that's not there. You're just allowing all these players to, not only are you allowing tampering again, you're not only allowing tampering for these players, and that's one thing that coaches have just wrote home about is we have to get rid of the tampering, like my players are getting tampered with, yada, 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 whatever. But you've got to have some sort of accountability. And if you have some repercussions with Damon Williams, with making him pay out of that contract what Washington was giving or whatever clause is in the contract, then I think that's a fine way to do it. But you have to have some legal repercussions. And what are you teaching the other kids, the other players, the other kids? What's stopping Bryce Underwood in reality of, because we saw that he re-signed with Michigan, what's stopping Bryce Underwood from getting out of his Michigan contract and going to play for Ole Miss or LSU? What's stopping it? Nothing. Unless you set an example the way they did with Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter in Michigan 4 years ago. What's stopping it? You have to set an example at some point. And Damon Williams has to either be set as the example, because it's just going to keep going.
And I think we're past that point. I think the NCAA's got to go. I don't know what it's going to look like now. I don't know how it changes. But it's I say it's starting to get ridiculous.
I don't think the NCAA has to go. You just have to have the people in place, whether that is the NCAA or whether that is something completely different. But it's more of the people in place, because right now it's just being ran free. Like no one is doing anything to stop anything. What you have to have someone in place. You might just have to have a new commissioner. You might have to have Nick Saban be the commissioner of college football at this point, because that's the way that it seems like it needs to happen at this point. Because, which again, I find it a little bit ironic that Nick Saban is the one talking to people about paying players. I digress. That's just what I'm saying. And also John Calipari saying the rules be the rules. Buddy, you put 2 schools on probation. I digress.
Hey,
but
man. Yeah.
I don't think the NCAA has to go, but you have to have a governing body of some sort with the people in place that want to put their balls on the table and say enough is enough and draw the line in the sand somewhere. That's what's got to happen. Whether it's called the NCAA or called something completely different, that's the way it is. But you have to have some sort of governing body. And I don't think getting rid of the NCAA entirely is the solution, but you have to have some sort of governing body, and whatever it's called is what it's called.
It's unacceptable. Let's just call it what it is. It's unacceptable. It cannot continue. It cannot continue to happen. And I guess that parlays us into our next question, because you were talking about this a little bit earlier. Curt Cignetti actually brought this up. obviously looking at what he's doing at Indiana. And I mean, you talk about a group, they called him a group of misfits. I don't think that's true. I think they're great college football players. I just think they joined up with Curt Cignetti because they saw what he's done at James Madison and what he might do at Indiana.
Misfits maybe because they all came together as one.
From different,
right.
Like
there's some damn good football players. Fernando Mendoza's probably the number one overall pick. You can't say he's a misfit.
Right.
He's a cornball, but you can't say he's number one. He's a misfit. he just seems like a socially awkward person. I'm sorry.
I just wish I had his level of chronic happiness all the time. I really do. That's the one thing I envy about Mendoza. He's just so chronically positive. It's like, can I just get a little bit of that, just a sliver of that?
Or the fact that like he changes up his emotions like that, where he's crying and all of a sudden it's like he's crying. Oh, we can't do it. But we're champs. We're champs. That's what we're like. How? What just happened? Like it's like the Jamal Williams. Remember the old Lions running back when they beat the Packers, and he's talking about his grandfather just passed away. He's bawling his eyes out, and he goes, "Don't play with us. We're the Detroit Lions. We coming for that." Like, how does that happen? How do you switch up emotions like that?
Because you're going through all of it, man. I imagine after something like that, like it's not just one emotion or the other. Like it's like a sea. Like you're just getting hit from all angles. But it's a good question. I mean, portal or recruiting, and
high school recruiting.
The issue is high school recruiting, right? And the issue is now is that in the era of where we are, right, with NIL and transfer portal and everything, success is not. You don't wait on it, right? You don't wait on success. If Kyle Whittingham comes to Michigan and he goes 7-5 next year, and he follows that up with maybe a 10-9-3 season, and he doesn't beat Ohio State, he's gone.
Yeah,
like there is no doubt in my mind he is gone, and we are thinking of bringing in somebody else. That's only 2 years, but there's no excuse anymore because in a lot of these places, including a place like Michigan with their NIL fund. There's no such thing as, I need time for my guys to develop. I need time for my team to get to that point to where I want them to be. You have the portal. You have the financial means. You have the ability to go to get the players that you want to go win a championship right now. We don't have to wait. And I just saw that list of Michigan players who are transferring out yesterday. I can't believe Cole Sullivan's transferring out, man. That makes me so upset.
Real quick, just on the Demond Williams things real quick. It was tweeted by On3 again that Washington plans to enforce its contract with Demond Williams. So just putting it out there again that seems like there's some adults in the room.
Well, and you need to make them sign contracts, like extended contracts. Like that, you need to be able to give the schools the ability to be like, hey, you're going to be here for at least 2 years. Sorry. Like that. And if you sign on the dotted line, you sign on the dotted line. You don't get to just one day wake up and be like, you know what, I want to be a LSU Tiger. No, that's not how that works. Sorry. But talking about the high school recruiting or transfer portal, I think it's just the pressure is on coaches right now because, again, success and instant gratification, that's everything in college football now. Again, you're not allowed to use the excuse of, well, we're young. Well, we're building. We're getting there. Like when Harbaugh first came to Michigan, we were willing to look past the early struggles because we're like, oh, he's building, right? He's getting there. You got to give him a little bit.
Which those weren't early struggles on what we were used to. A 10-3 season, we were used to 8-4, 7-5, 6-6.
Right.
So everyone was happy with that. Outside of trouble with the Snappers first year, other than that, it was pretty good.
I saw a TikTok video the other day of if you could change one sporting event in your life, which one would it be? And outside of USA v Canada gold medal game in the 2010 Olympics, ice hockey Olympics,
I remember that.
Outside of Crosby scoring the game-winning goal in overtime in Canada when we had an opportunity to beat them in Vancouver, I would say definitely trouble with the snap. I don't think I
would say the spot, JT Barrett spot. That'd be mine.
Yeah.
Just because it's Ohio State.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
And 2016.
Yeah. And if they,
in their place.
And if they won that,
you go to a title.
They would have They would have played in a Big Ten championship game, which would have gotten the have been an Indy monkey off his back, and you would have got the Ohio State monkey off his back, and that's a damn good Michigan football team. They could have won it all that year. No, I think they still would have ran into a buzzsaw in Clemson, but it would have been good.
I mean, they had Devin Bush. Who else?
Devin Bush was a backup. Devin Bush was a special teams player that year.
Wasn't Jabril Peppers was on the team that year?
Yeah,
man. The fact that we didn't do anything with Jabril Peppers is so sad.
But Devin
talk about
Bush,
a dynamic player.
To your perspective, Devin Bush was a special teams player for Michigan that year.
That's crazy. Sealed it against Michigan State the following year. But anyways, yeah, no, it's ridiculous, man. But I understand where the struggle for coaches. Like if you're going to a Michigan, if you're going to an LSU, if you're going to a Bama with Kalen DeBoer, which I don't buy the whole that they fell off. They still made the playoffs. They still made the second round of it. They're not Nick Saban's Alabama anymore, but they're still damn good.
It's the way it looked. It's the way it looked.
Yeah, that's true. But anyways, if you're going to any one of those places, the expectation is win now. And so I don't think you completely go away from high school recruiting. I don't think you ever can. I think that's the foundation of your team. But especially if you have the resources to be able to develop them. But I don't blame Curt Cignetti at all. Because winning now sets up everything in the future. And if Indiana goes out and wins a championship this year, I mean, you talk about completely changing the trajectory of a program. Win now is the expectation. And so I can't blame coaches for doing what they're doing. They're simply just adjusting to the times. And that's why we're seeing coaches left and right stepping away from the sport, especially the OGs, because they're like, I don't want to navigate this anymore.
What's Kirk Ferentz still doing, though?
Well, I mean, I don't think Kirk Ferentz is ever going to leave Iowa. Yeah, he's like, he's a lifetimer.
But I would say,
shout out to him beating Vanderbilt.
I would say, to your point, there's two coaches, I think, in college athletics that have kind of ruined. Again, I'm not saying ruined is a bad thing for them or the school or whatever. I'm not saying ruin is a bad thing, but I'm saying ruin the OG way of building college teams. I think I look at a Curt Cignetti and I look at a Dusty May. I think those two coaches have ruined the way that it used to be done. Look at what Cignetti. It's kind of based on what the trajectories of their first two seasons are. It's kind of the same. You see, Cignetti and May, they both come into Indiana and Michigan, both programs that were in tough spots. May took over an 8-win team. That team sucked. There was the only players. The only players were left were Cheddar and Burnett. I think those were the only two. Oh, Jace Howard. My bad. Anyway, and then Cignetti is taking over the worst football team of all time, worst college football team of all time. And again, I still think Indiana was fraudulent. I still think Michigan was a little fraudulent based on who they beat. Michigan got hot, won the Big Ten tournament, got to Sweet 16. Indiana gets to a college football playoff. That's it. Then you look at year two, and remind you, they just wiped clean with everyone. They brought in almost all transfer players. And then you look at their year two, Indiana is, I think, my favorite to win the college football playoff, win the national championship. They win the Big Ten. They beat Ohio State. They're doing things that Indiana fans only dreamed of doing. Then you look at Michigan this year, outside of yesterday, which horrible basketball game, by the way. Don't know what Happy Valley. I don't know what Happy. They still won. You're right, but yeah. I don't understand what Happy Valley does to top 10 Michigan basketball teams. I don't understand it, but something just happens. Anyway, you look at Michigan this year, and they are historically one of the best college basketball teams of all time. It's still January 7th. There's still lots of basketball to be played. I understand that.
Right.
But looking at the numbers of, 13 games in the season, they're better than the Fab Five. They're better than the Anthony Davis Kentucky team. They're on pace to go 40, like the Kentucky teams with Cat, Devin Booker, and all them. The Gonzaga teams, the Christian Laettner teams. Like, those two coaches in their each sport respectively, brilliant minds, but they looked at two things: production to potential. And Cignetti talked about it. He says he took he made a ton of mistakes as Alabama's recruiting coordinator, that he looked at potential more than production. And Dusty May has almost almost all transfer portal recruits outside of Kaysen, McKennie, and Winters, Grady, and Oscar Goodman. But the majority of the team is all transfers. And that's what things where coaches kind of have to look at things. Like, I remember looking at in 2016, oh my God, Michigan had a top 10 transfer college recruiting class. Like, that used to mean something. Now it doesn't really hold that same weight. I would much rather have a 15th or a 13th recruiting class in the nation in terms of high school, and I would have like a top 15 transfer portal recruiting class, because you can still bring in some of those, like, because you can still bring in some young players that have some really high upside, like an Andrew Marsh, like a Jaden Sanders, like a Bryce Underwood, and an Andrew Babaloa. But at the same time, you can also inject a little bit of talent in terms of veteran guys. Like Pat Coogan, for instance, for Indiana. Fantastic player at Notre Dame, doing the thing at Indiana. So I think that weighs certain ways. I myself, if I was a coach, I'd want a little bit of both, because I still think you need to have those high school relationships. I still think you can also somehow keep those guys for 2 to 3 years, become high draft picks. I still think you need a little bit of both, but at the same time, the incoming high school class doesn't mean as much as it used to.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Man, the world's changing in front of us. Some for good, some for worse, but certainly college football is seen a lot of that.
Yeah,
so,
I'd say so.
Anyways, passionate segment for sure. Let's set it aside, come back. We're going to talk a little bit about maybe the Lions getting a new offensive coordinator. And
Johnny Mo's got to go.
Certain name, someone was feeling nicey, and he might get an opportunity to get back into the NFL. We'll talk about that more coming up next, right here on Inside the Game.
The Flint City Bucks are Michigan's top soccer franchise with 4 national championships, 9 conference titles, and 15 Great Lakes Division titles. They have produced 107 players for Major League Soccer, and they focus on attracting top talent and shaping soccer's future. Michigan Bucks Academy joins NLS Next new competition tier starting in September of 2025. This offers elevated levels of play and flexibility for high school participation. The Academy will provide premier development, high-performance training, and exposure to scouts through regional tournaments and MLS Next events. For more information on tryouts, training programs, and key updates as we prepare for our first season in MLS Next new tier, visit MichiganBucksAcademy.com.
We're back live and Inside the Game. Final segment here in hour 2 of episode 203. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinski. Appreciate all you guys following, watching. Give us a follow on social media. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Get involved in the conversation as well. We go live every single day here for this show. Ryan, one more thing to talk about here today. Lions' new offensive coordinator, a name that has potentially been floated around as someone who could take that spot, and someone who is obviously huge in the sports scene in general, and especially in the football scene. Has his own show, was on Hard Knocks, I believe.
Yeah, he was.
As well.
With the Raiders.
And it's Mr. the one and only, someone who I believe we resembled a little bit, especially when we were doing our unboxing of apparel. I think we took a page out of his playbook. That's John Gruden, who could potentially be the next offensive coordinator of the Lions. Now, before we dive into this, My only question when it comes to John Gruden, he's a brilliant football mind. I mean, just listening to him talk about football, talk about like the game within the game and like knowing those certain things. I nerd out on listening to John Gruden. I love listening to him talk. I love listening to him interact with different players. I think that this is someone that, in terms of his history in the game, he knows the game really well. And he could be someone who could certainly guide the Lions into the next era. But is the baggage too much? You know, is it water under the bridge now, or do people still remember some of the baggage that he had in his last NFL stop? Like that's the thing to me. If you're the Lions, right? We talk about drama and trying to avoid drama as much as possible, and I think that's something that's important when you're trying to build a champion. Could this become a clown show quicker than anything else if they bring in John Gruden? Not that he's not a good coach, but do people just forget history like that?
Yeah, I feel like Gruden, well, first off, I think Gruden, anytime a head coaching vacancy becomes open, whether that's college or whether that's NFL, offensive coordinator, anywhere, Gruden's name is going to be just mentioned just because it's John Gruden. But I feel like Gruden has fallen to the TV personality bug. I think he's more focused on being a TV personality, talking football, breaking down film with a lot of these quarterbacks with his QB Gruden camp or Gruden QB camp. So I think it would turn into a little bit of a clown show, and I think that's the opposite of what Dan Campbell. That's the opposite of how Dan Campbell runs things. Like it's a very I don't want to say it's a no-nonsense policy, but it feels on the outside looking in. Obviously, I don't know anything what goes on behind closed doors, but looking from the outside looking in, it seems very, it's set in stone what needs to happen. It's very strict of what needs to happen, and I think it would go sour real quick with Gruden. I think it would, but you know what? It'd make good TV. So if you're in for the entertainment purposes, because those two, Dan Campbell and John Gruden, could not be like so polar opposite, I think, right now. Maybe Gruden just turns it on if he became a coach. Maybe he turns back to being football Gruden. But right now, I think those two would be so opposite. I think there'd be more arguments than stuff getting done.
Well, and that's the thing is like, you don't forget how to coach the game just because you've been out of it for a few years, right? You don't forget that. And we've seen that a ton. And we know that obviously the pipeline from coaching to media is a strong one. We see it all the time, just like the pipeline of players to media is a very strong one. And it always will be one because they know that they get the game better than anybody else. And the thing that John Gruden has, and it reminds me a lot of Pat McAfee, he has that McAfee energy, and that's what people love about John Gruden because he's a maniac. And people like maniacs. They like characters. And Gruden's been able to develop this character really well, but I think what really helped the Lions get to that next level and succeed the way that they did, I don't know if Dan Campbell's the best football coach in the world, but you don't have to be the best X's and O's coach in the world to be a good motivator, right? And I think that's the most important thing when you talk about a head coach, right? I want my coordinators to be dorks, okay?
Yeah.
Ben Johnson's a dork. Okay, he is a nerd, but in the best of ways, right? Because he can look at an empty
Oddly
canvas.
Obsessed with Matt LaFleur, by the way. Oddly obsessed.
A little bit, yeah. But it is a little weird. But he can look at a blank canvas and he can create something literally out of nothing.
You want your head coach to be a CEO.
Yes, the face of the company, which in every single way Dan Campbell has been great at that. He's been great at that. And he's rallied the people around just how emotional he is. And I like seeing that out of my head coach. So I think Gruden is just as much of a dork as any coordinator in the history of the game. I think he's entertaining. I think people love him. But in terms of football specific, he's a nerd. And he knows a lot of things. But do the personalities contrast? I think yes. And when you're coming off of the season like they did this year, and you miss the playoffs, and now we're right back in the same position like we were, like when we beat the Packers at the end of what year was that?
22.
Was that 22. It's already 22. Wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um,
2022, 2023, same thing.
But now that we're back in that position, the last thing that you want to do, in my opinion, as an organization, is go out and get someone who could in any way be a distraction. I mean, this pertains to players, this pertains to coaches, this pertains to anybody. And so I love John Gruden. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore John Gruden. I think he's fun to watch. I think his segments are great. I think his unboxing, all of his different apparel. Obviously, has he gotten Central Michigan stuff?
He did. Just about
he got
2 weeks
Western
ago.
Michigan stuff. He did? All right,
Yeah,
finally.
It was right before
Thank
the bowl
goodness.
game.
All right.
He opened it.
Oh, really? All right,
Yeah,
good.
they gave a ton of shout outs to the greatest hot dog place of all time and best spot to go to get a hot dog at 1 a.m. in Mount Pleasant, Dog Central. So it was great. And they sent them Nicey t-shirts and hoodies. So
Nice.
yeah. But
Very nice. But I don't know if he would he probably would clash with Dan Campbell, but yeah, CMU has a lot of great alums. A lot of really they got Hall of Famers.
Some great alum. One of them doesn't need to be talked about. Mr.
CTE,
Antonio
man.
Brown.
It's
Chris
during his
Kaman?
prime he was the best. He was the best in the NFL. Chris Kaman. Yep.
Dan Marley.
Yep. Actually, a Michigan kid. He's from Michigan. Yep.
Yeah.
Marley. Who's the
Um,
tackle?
Eric Fisher.
Eric Fisher.
The guy in the 49ers.
Isn't there another one?
He's on
Staley.
the 49ers.
Oh man.
I forgot.
All right, now you're gonna.
Dan Lefevre was a dog back in the day. You got Luke Gadecki on the Bucks, Bernard Raymond on the Colts. Also, little tidbit of information. You know how dominant that Kenneth Walker year was for Michigan State? Did you know that he wasn't even the nation's leading rusher that year?
Really?
You know who it was? Lou Nichols, CMU running back, had more yards than Kenneth Walker that year. Just putting it out there.
Wow,
Just
that I
putting it out
didn't
there.
know.
That's why.
Wow. All right.
That's why I always joke with my MSU friends. They're like, "Oh, K9 should have been in New York," which he should have been in New York. But I always say, "How could he have been in New York? He wasn't even the nation's leading rusher, and wasn't even the leading rusher in his own state." Just putting it out there. But no, I
Oh,
thought
that's great. Was that the Bonamago days?
No, that
Or
was
was
still,
that
was
after
McElwain.
Bonamago?
That was
That was
my
McElwain. Okay.
freshman year freshman year of college was Lou Nichols, and we thought CMU was going to be so sweet at football, and they really weren't. Not until this year. So,
but I thought McElwain had a lot of promise coming in, but obviously it didn't quite go to plan. But
I do got So I got a couple names for you that I'll spit fire to you, and you kind of how we do with the Manchester United thing. But we'll do Lions offensive coordinators. There's two in-house that CBS is saying. One, the former Stanford head coach and passing game coordinator, David Shaw, currently on the Lions right now.
I think Shaw would be a good fit. I don't like promoting internally. I don't,
Really?
I think sometimes just to keep continuity. But this is not a team where, you had a winning season last year and you did really well, and now you want to promote from within because you want to keep continuity and you want to keep things hunky-dory, right? Like you want to keep it the same. I respect David Shaw. I think he's great at what he does. I think he's great in his role with the Lions. Is he someone, obviously, with the passing game coordinator? And the reason why I like is Jared Goff has been one of the more efficient passers in the NFL for almost the entirety of his career. I know that he's getting old, but I mean there were times in his career where he was more passing yards, better QBR than freaking Aaron Rodgers when he was on the Packers.
4,000 yards yards this year and 30 touchdowns. And as bad as that, I don't think it was 30 touchdowns. I think it was like 25, but he threw 30 touchdowns last year. But for as bad as that offensive line was, and he still threw for 4,000 yards, I mean, he's not horrible. Sure, he can't move, but he's still a solid QB.
So all I'm saying is I would like for them to look outside before looking at someone like David Shaw. He's great at his job. And again, he gets the most out of Jared Goff. And to any Lions fans out there who think that Goff is to blame for what this season is, you're on one. All right, that's simply what it is. Yeah, Goff. I thought when he came in first, and I'll be the first one to raise my hand. I thought he was a what do they call it? Bridge quarterback.
Same.
That's what I thought he was.
I'll raise my hand as well.
I did not think he was a permanent fix, even despite the fact that he got to the Super Bowl. My whole thing was Sean McVay got him there.
Yeah,
if it's not for Sean McVay, he's a system guy. But I think he fits within a system. But just because he's not flashy, mobile, dual threat, can run, which he can run a little bit. But people are like, oh, he's not that. Jared Goff is that. He's not the reason why they fell flat on their face in a lot of those situations. So David Shaw's gotten the most out of him, and so does that continue? If they don't have a better option, I think he'd be a great fit if they needed him.
Another one in-house. Again, I agree with you. That should be external hire. But another one, Hank Fraley, offensive line coach, current run game coordinator.
Yeah, how long has Hank Fraley been there? I guess that's my question.
Idea. It's been a minute though.
I like it, and I like it for one reason and one reason only. If you want to put him in a position to we talked about building the offensive line, right? That was the one thing that the Lions missed on 2018. Yeah, so he's been there for a minute. But this is one thing they missed on coming into this year. Right, and when the Lions were dominating and when they were kicking everyone's butts and when they were one good half away from making the Super Bowl, what was the one thing the Lions did better than anybody else? They carted you off the field. Mm-hmm. They ran the football better than anybody else, right? And so if I want a coordinator, which obviously we know Ben Johnson had a major hand and a major role in who the Lions drafted and who they took in certain spots, I always think your coordinator should have a seat at the table. And I think someone like that should have a seat at the table because I think he understands not only the importance of a good offensive line, you talk about someone that might be able to notice a prospect or two that could actually help bring this line back to a semblance of what they used to be. I don't mind putting him in that spot. I think if you were to him and David Shaw, I think I'd probably go with Shaw in that position. I don't mind him in that spot. Would he be my first choice? Probably not.
Then we're going to go external hires the rest of the way. Former Giants head coach Brian Daboll.
I like Daboll. Where was he before the Giants? That's
they were together in Miami.
He's in Miami. Was he a coordinator then?
It says he was just an he was an offensive coordinator, looks like.
The thing that just troubles me, and we've seen this before. Head coaching records are not an indication of
Bill's offense coordinator. My bad.
Bill's offense coordinator.
Bill's offense coordinator.
Okay, so that's the thing. Like some coordinators are not good as head coaches. We talked about this yesterday. Jim Schwartz, Rod Marinelli is another good example too. Rod Marinelli, Mr. 0-16, he was a much better coordinator than he ever was a head coach. But Jim Schwartz is another good example too. Brian Daboll did really good with Buffalo. And obviously we know when you have Josh Allen on your team, I feel like I'm sure SpongeBob SquarePants could probably coach that offense and they'd still find a way to go out and win some games just because you do have Josh Allen. But he was a part of that Alabama tree. He was under Saban in 2017. He had a ton of success in Buffalo. Obviously we know that, their playoff woes have continued. New York it seems like an impossible job. Like there are just certain teams that it's just, you can't, it seems like you go there to die. Your career goes there to die. And I'm not saying Daboll's done, but between the Giants and the Jets and the Browns, I know we were talking about John Harbaugh a little bit earlier and all the different teams that are interested in picking him up, obviously since he was released. The Browns were one of those teams that were floated out there. Why he would even consider going to the Browns, I don't know. I mean, unless they paid him a really pretty penny, but It's going to be really hard to turn a franchise like that around. I like Daboll. Do I love him for the spot? Not necessarily. No.
Another one, and speaking of the Ravens, current Ravens offense coordinator Todd Monken. He, of course, was offense coordinator for the Bucs with Jameis Winston, also with Baker Mayfield and the Browns. And he was also a head coach himself in college. I forgot what school it was, but He started with 1 win, and then he ended up with 9 wins in his third and final season. He also was the offense coordinator for Georgia when they were winning national championships with Stetson Bennett. But Todd Monken, that was a name that was floated around for the Michigan head coaching vacancy that I kind of liked. And, he is also going to be on the market now.
Well, you talk about someone that got high praise from a Harbaugh. I mean, high energy, great communicator, makes it clear what he's looking for, can command a room, right? All those things that you're looking for in a coordinator, he has. And I think of Ben Johnson. I think that was someone who could command a room as well. And so I think that's something that's very attractive about Monken. I saw this name floated very early on. But he's been with the Ravens the last 3 seasons. Obviously, he's had Lamar Jackson, so he's had his pick of the litter in terms of a dual-threat quarterback who can do a lot of different things. That's not Jared Goff, right? So when you go from
opposite.
Yeah, you go from that to now you have Jared Goff as your quarterback, kind of changes. That doesn't it completely changes things. I like Monken. I don't know if he would be great for the Lions in this current setup that they have.
This one I find interesting, but he left yesterday. Former Commanders offensive coordinator, former Arizona Cardinals head coach, Cliff Kingsbury, who said he left the Commanders to view future endeavors. He didn't get fired. He just said he wanted to look for the future.
No. Next question.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think Cliff, if you look at his offenses, Kyler Murray, Mahomes, Jaden Daniels for another example, but there's another one that I'm forgetting. There's another one. A&M, Manziel, Johnny Manziel, who's offensive coordinator there. All of those quarterbacks have something in common, and Jared Goff doesn't have it. So, I would say that's another bashing of the heads. Another one that I find a little bit interesting would be Tommy Rees, Browns offense coordinator, former Notre Dame quarterback that constantly got yelled at by Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I think I think he would be a good fit. I'm looking at some of these other names, and maybe I got one on here that kind of like we were talking about earlier with Man United.
I have no more after this.
You have no more after this? Is the last one?
Yeah, last one.
How do you feel about him? Let me ask you this.
Tommy Rees?
Yeah.
He's been in a rough spot.
You like him as a choice? Okay.
He is in a rough spot for.
And you can't blame him for that. I feel like you can't blame him for that. Yeah, for the Brown. Yep.
He was also looks like he was a coordinator at Bama in Notre Dame as well.
Yep.
And that was Alabama in 23, so that would have been Jalen Milroe. Yeah, that had been Jalen Milroe. Notre Dame then with I don't even know who. Oh, they had a bunch of different quarterbacks during that time. No, I wouldn't say Tommy Rees would be my choice, but he's put in a bad spot. He's now available with Kevin Stefanski. Is Kevin Stefanski another guy that you look at? But no, I wouldn't say Tommy Rees would be my offense. Oh, I forgot to name the other one, but that was currently being interviewed by the Lions. But go with yours.
I mean, Scotty Montgomery could be another good choice, the assistant head coach, wide receiver coach for the Lions. How about this? Maybe not a serious one, but I think it would be funny to see him back just because I love this guy. But David Blau.
That's the one I was going to say, yeah.
Commanders' assistant quarterback coach. I mean, he's familiar with the Lions. He's familiar with the system. He's been in it. Obviously, he was a backup quarterback for the Lions, Purdue grad. He's never called plays, right? So that would be a bold choice for the Lions to be like, we're going to bring in David Blau and have him call plays because he's never done it. But he understands the scheme. And more importantly than that, was even credited by former offensive coordinator Ben Johnson for suggesting plays for the team to run in upcoming games. So he's actually had his hand in some of the things that Ben Johnson did when he was in Detroit. Almost kind of like an assistant to the assistant, right? You're the assistant to the assistant manager, right? He was the guy in a lot of instances that was in Ben Johnson's ear in these certain situations. Obviously did not pan out as a player. He wasn't all that great to begin with. But
Purdue, though. Purdue quarterback.
Purdue, he was pretty good. Yeah, Purdue. Was he a part of that Purdue team that beat Ohio State? That big upset that one year when they put up like 40-something on them? Was that him or was that too long ago?
I think so, actually. I think
David
so
Blau?
because they had Rondale Moore.
Yeah.
That was Jeff Brom. Let's see.
I think it was him.
Maybe
Maybe
yes.
not.
He threw for
It was
378 yards and 3
Ouch.
touchdowns. Dwayne
Ooh.
Haskins threw for 470 yards. Wait, that can't be right. He did not throw the football 73 times in that game. The box score says Dwayne Haskins went 49 for 73. 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's insane.
I don't doubt it. I think they were down multiple scores like minutes into the game. So I mean,
It
like,
says Mike Weber only had 9 carries. So
wow, interesting.
But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
but
I think David Blau could be interesting.
I mean, he could come out of the blue, and that's from a Lions fan perspective. If they were to get David Blau, this is really like kind of an inside edition type thing. Like, you would have to know this. But if he was under Ben Johnson, if this is someone that's been suggesting plays, the only thing is how new he would be to being the full-time play caller, right? It's one thing to just kind of step in and be like, hey, here's what we see on film. We should try this. We should do this. That's one thing. But now to be the full-time play caller is a completely different story, completely different situation. So how does that look? Yeah, how does that look for him?
I would say you got to get an experienced play caller at this point. I don't think you can mess around again. And you had a new play caller this year in Shepard, Kelvin Shepard. Is Kelvin Shepard someone that might get fired? I don't know. But yeah, no, I would like somebody to have some experience with some play calling. I don't discredit Blau's potential. But what we just talked about in college recruiting, production or potential. I'd almost lean a little bit more on the production side right now.
Yeah, who's proved themselves, because I don't think we have time to experiment. I don't think we have time to let's try this out or try that out. Let's get to question of the day.
Yep, question of the day, which is going to be football related yet again, American football related. But Salt Athletic, an official sponsor of us here at the National Soccer Network, you know the drill. That #1 smell-proof cleat bag that 100% works. I've tried it before here in the studio. It 100% works. Save 15% by using promo code NSN15, excuse me. It doesn't even have to be cleats. You can use anything you want, really. Scan that QR code or visit saltathletic.com today. But, of course, obviously, with some firings, even including yesterday, what is the best head coaching vacancy in football? I should have said the NFL, but that's where we're going. What's the best head coaching job in the NFL right now? I can give you that list if you need. But, yeah, that's where I would go.
All right, hit me with the list. Who we got?
So you have the Ravens, the Giants, the Browns. You also have, there's an ad, Falcons, Cardinals, Titans, and the Raiders.
All right, I think the Ravens is easily the best open available position. I mean, that would be my first choice. I mean, I'm a little surprised that they got rid of John Harbaugh. I mean, I think the guy has been consistently good for the longest time. I think he's gotten them to the playoffs so many times. I think they've always been contenders. Obviously, this year was a major disappointment. So I'm a little shocked that they got rid of him in the first place. But if I'm a head coach, I'm not going to Cleveland. I don't really like the idea of going to the Raiders. I think that's an impossible job. I don't love the idea of going to the Giants, but I think sometimes we have short-term memory with this stuff. Like the Giants, for the longest time, at least in my childhood growing up, the Giants were a great football team. They were always in the conversation. Like those Eli Manning days, like the Giants were always in the running to go out and win a Super Bowl. It's a little bit different now. I don't know if I would jump at the opportunity to go to New York. Atlanta, a little bit different. I mean, I think you got a little bit more potential there. I'm going to say the Ravens. That's my final answer. What do you think?
I would say the Ravens are a good one. I also think the Falcons job is a good one too, because I think you have
got a lot of good pieces.
They're like the Falcons are like the Colts. They have a lot of good pieces, but there's no consistent quarterback play, whether that's Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix. But honestly, I think it might be the Giants. And I'll say this. Yeah, there's a ton of pressure. It's New York, all this, yada, yada, yada. But if there was one thing that I saw this year from the Giants, it wasn't even just the Lions game. The Giants played every game tough. They played every game down to the wire. Yeah, they went 4-13. But at the same time, they played really good football for a majority of that game. They just couldn't close. They couldn't close at the end of the game. You still have a pretty good defensive line at this point. You have some pieces on the offensive line, and I hope Scadaboo comes back healthy because that was a scary, scary injury. And Jackson Dart looked good. I thought Jackson Dart was much more impressive than I thought he would have been. And I would say the Giants, I think if this team was put in, let's say, Atlanta, maybe if you threw this in back on the list. Let's look back at the list. Cleveland, no. Put Arizona, maybe. If you threw this team in Tennessee as a Tennessee Titans, I think this would be the best job. But since they're in New York, it's a little bit tougher.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, that wraps up hour number 2 of Inside the Game. Appreciate you guys, as always, stopping by. Check us out, National Soccer Network, as well as the Premier Media Group and our All Sports platform. Again, we're going to be posting these clips daily, so we'll be right back tomorrow with another conversation, episode 204. And you can also check out our schedule Monday through Friday, 9 to 11. We used to be 9 to 10. Now we're 9 to 11. So 2 hours extra content for everybody out there. Woo! But until we talk to you guys for episode 204, as always, that's Ryan Glinski. I'm Nate Wangler. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on Inside the Game.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.